Hello and welcome to the Keto, Fitness and Everything Inbetween podcast. Today, Gia and I will be talking about one of those in-between things, which is business. Now, business is something that we are both passionate about, and we're both passionate about helping people start their business journey as well. So within these podcasts, you'll be hearing about startups, getting started, gig economy, and just all these things that you don't really realize until you start a business yourself. So hopefully this will be helpful to you. Hopefully it will inspire you to take your steps into starting your own business. If not, we hope we can start, at least be potentially planting the seed for that future idea. So if you love this, please leave us a review. And if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask us.
My attention span has dramatically decreased since secondary school.
Yeah.
I can only listen about one topic for so long.
The thing is as well, so have you heard of Blinkist?
Yeah, you sent me that before I was going to start, yeah.
Literally made my life because I hate reading, purely because there's so much waffle surrounding all the points. Cut straight to the point, I'm here for it.
Because and this is what I felt like, I don't understand why I ever chose to start blogging, because I am not that person to be putting in 20 links per page about completely irrelevant stuff just because I could get a little bit of couple of pennies from Amazon associates.
I'm kind of trying to start, because I've been trying to start for so long, and I think, and this is all just slothmove based stuff. I want to get a lifestyle section on there, because players in the game who kind of do little bits and pieces of what we do, but none of them are customer focused, and none of them have a lifestyle blog. So I really want to get things on there decorating houses, and people like Shannon, she's going to start her own blog, and for her to say, this is my experience of moving in, this is my mindset when I'm decorating, do you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that I want to get to.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, I'm not in any form.
I think probably the biggest question is was there kind of a eureka moment for you starting this? Did you realise that then and there that there was such a gap in the market, or was it just that you kind of just fell into it?
You know what it was for me? So it was literally just over a year ago, really, I think the idea came. And I'd moved home 3 times within as many months. And it was also the time where I just started to get switched on to how ads, targeted ads, actually work. And I'd realised that I'd been searching Zoopla and, DVLO moving home, and nothing had targeted me. And I'm doing the individual processes. It's taking so long. I'm on the phone for ages as well. There must be something that does this. And just after quick Google, online moving home or online change of address, nothing popped up. And I was there's actually just the engineer in me. I'm there's definitely a process for me to do this. So yeah, that was my moment.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's been working out for you, and I know that a lot of people, they have these ideas, but they just never know how to progress with it. Obviously, you've been working full time, but doing this on the side.
Yeah, so I think the thing is, so the way that I approached it, so you can have an idea, and ideas are great, but ideas are, 10 a penny, because everybody has, I guarantee everybody has $1 million idea, but it's all about acting on it. So there's a little process that I would go through. And I think this applies to almost everyone if you're going to do a service or a product-based business. And there's a really good book to read called The Lean Startup. And it's on Blinkist as well, by the way, so you can cut all the waffle out. But basically, you need to understand, okay, so I've got this idea, how can I do it, and how can I create it in the cheapest possible way? And I mean spending literally next to nothing, because one of the mistakes that a lot of people make, and a lot of people you see on Dragon's Den as well, they will put thousands and all of their life savings into making this idea, which they think is the next big thing, and it actually turns out there's either not a market for it, or it already exists, or so you've got to try and find what is the cheapest way of doing this. And sometimes it's actually free, or something as cheap as making a landing page explaining your idea with a sign up box. So that would be the first thing is actually understand is there a market for this? Like, is the solution, is there a problem to the solution that you've thought of, if that makes sense?
And also I think it's about whether the market's big enough for you. So you could have this really amazing idea, but if it only applies to, like, you know, a couple of hundred people, how are you going to find, and that's fine if it's a service-based business, but if it's not a highly profitable service-based business, you will never be able to make a business out of that that's livable.
100%. And until you make money, like whatever we do, it's just a passion project or a hobby. Like, it's got to be making the money for it to be a business. And that's just like, it sounds cutthroat, but it's just the way it is. And it's like, that's something when I first heard it, I was like, what? But you know, this is a really good idea. But then, you know, it makes sense, because you can't forever be, you know, putting money that's not making anything back at the same time.
And I think that's so important, to be listening to other people's feedback as well, because obviously, you know, you're the owner of a business and you want to do it a certain way. But if other people are telling you that that won't work, or that won't work in the long run, you can't expect it to work in the long run. Because obviously other people are going to have an input, especially when you're a startup, but it's whether that input is valid and whether it is useful, and whether you want to use it or you can use it, then, you know, you go ahead. But they're probably telling you that for a reason, and I feel like you should never take it to heart. You should be taking it as a review of your business and where can you improve.
100%, yeah. Like one of the so yeah, when we first launched Slothmove, it was like I say, it was like this minimal viable product, which was like the cheapest, most basic way we could have done it, which was like a few third-party websites that made it work. But one of the things that I put in at the end was a required feedback question, and literally based on the feedback that we were getting from that, that's how we tweaked the service. And a lot of our early users were from Instagram as well. So I always made sure, like, to go back to them and ask them how it was, and built it from there. Like for me, the first year was literally just pummeling through feedback and understanding what is the best customer journey. Like, what do people want? What services do people want? Like, what are the pain points essentially for people that are moving home? And that's really important. So one of the things as well that I've definitely learn, and I think it's just the way that we've always done it, I think, because we came from like consumers ourselves. It's like we focused on consumer, and one of the biggest things, and I think the way that you'll be successful in business, is enriching your customer. Like, you just need to add value to your customer, like find a way to add value to them and focus on that first, for sure.
And I think, like, one of the biggest commodities right now is time. So if you can possibly save someone time and save them money, then you will be helping them in the long run, and they'll be wanting your business.
Yeah, 100%. Like, one of the things that we're keen to do, and this is the way we're building this, is through through blogs, like useful blogs, is to be like the voice of moving home and the voice of just home. Like, okay, I need to, you know, change my energy supplier. Okay, what does the energy price cap mean? What does the stamp tax pause mean? So anything kind of like home related, or, you know, and things as well, like people that have never moved out, like it's a big kind of jump. Like, we want to be there for those people where it's like, you know, holding their hand, these are the expenses that you can expect, here's how you can budget, here's how you can save, all of those things, like to be the voice of credibility. But I think that's a really big one, is being that credibility.
Yeah, I mean, being a trusted brand is probably one of the biggest things that you can do, especially when you're starting up, because as soon as you lose that trust, you won't have a business anymore. I mean, or the business that you will have is people that are coming from outside, but they haven't experienced that distrust yet. But eventually, everyone will find out. So it is just so important.
Yeah, 100%. And with how connected everyone is and how easy it is to share, I mean, it's so difficult to build a brand and to build, you know, customer loyalty, and almost within hours that you can lose it. You can lose it all.
I mean, like, cancel culture especially will rip you apart.
Yeah, and it's brutal. And I think in a lot of cases, like, rightly so.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of, rightly so. Other cases, it's like, maybe there's two sides, but it's just the way that it is.
Yeah. I mean, I know from my point of view that starting to build a brand, I was very aware of maybe videos that I had. I mean, we all go through a phase where we're like going on YouTube just to be on YouTube when we're like early teens, and there's probably, I'm sure, like I couldn't quote anything, but I'm sure that there's stuff that I don't want on the internet anymore. And as much as you try to wipe that away, if something does go wrong, then the most important thing is to show that you're a changed person and show that you can apologise and actually be genuine.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we're all humans, and even though, you know, people expect businesses to be, you know, big corporate machines, like a lot of businesses now are, you know, small to medium, less corporate focused, and they are just humans at the end of the day that are behind these businesses. So mistakes happen, it's natural. And I mean, obviously, like, there's so many things put into place with a lot of businesses to prevent that, but, you know, when they do happen, like, the best thing to do is just to call out and say, hey, look, we've noticed there's a problem here. This is what we've done to fix it. And, you know, this is how it will affect you.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, like, when things happen, so the first thing that people turn to is social media. If they've got a problem and you're not there, like, right then, they'll go on Facebook, they'll go on, like, Trustpilot, they'll go on Twitter, like, it'll happen. But if you kind of like brush it under the carpet, or, you know, if you just don't answer them and think that ignoring it is the right answer, it's not.
No, definitely not. And I think as well, by ignoring it and not having the conversation in the channels that you have access to, like, you're shutting down the conversation. So people will take people still need to have the conversation. So even though can be a difficult conversation to have if something has gone wrong, you've got to kind of like face up, deal with it, and kind of just grit your teeth and go through it, as opposed to, like you say, just brushing it under the carpet, because that just like rids you of all transparency. Like, it removes the transparency, and people don't have the opportunity to speak to you directly, which is what they're there for in the first place. So of course they're going to go elsewhere,
especially if it is a slightly bigger brand, or if it's almost like herd negativity. So as soon as something goes wrong, like, you can have small things going wrong, but that can literally that can be fine, you know, it's like small hurdles that you just go over. But as soon as more than one person is unhappy at a time, you're just going to like bring them in, because every single thing that happens from then on is going to be analysed 100%.
Yeah, it's so easy for it to spiral. So easy. And this is the thing, like, any business, no matter what size, like, you've got to be able to own up if there's a problem or something's gone wrong. Like, you've got to figure out what is, you know, how we're going to deal with it. Let's put an end to that. And you kind of, with whichever customers it's affected, you've just got to deal with the problem, put it right, make them happy. And then you've got to investigate internally to say, right, okay, why did that go wrong? Okay, how do we put a stop to that? Like, it's just basic troubleshooting, because you never want it to anyone else. But
it's obviously more difficult if you are the face of the brand. I know, you know, for instance, like slothmove, like, it is, I'm sure it's like kind of less of a face-to-face brand, it's more behind the scenes. With something like that, people don't need that kind of sort of hand-holding through the service. But I know if you are the face of the brand, like, it's a lot of pressure to kind of keep up that sort of business persona. But I mean, as we all know, but because I know, like, we've talked a lot about some issues with the fitness brand and their owner and their founder, but I think that's more of like influencer issues rather than actual CEO issues.
Yeah. But you know what's really interesting? So I read, you know, I'm awful for, like, I read like really good tidbits, but then forget where I've read them. So I'm going to start making notes. But basically, the company, whatever company that you start, it will take basically your persona. So if you are a kind, caring, considerate person, your company ethos will mold around the principles. Whereas on the other side, if you're greedy, you don't really care about people, it will mold again. There was like so many studies done on like multiple businesses, and where you could see that, you know, where there were gaps in the company, there were also gaps within the the founder of the company. And this is talking like smaller companies as well, not like,
oh yeah, sure.
really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you are trying to kind of fake that persona, I think that's very difficult. And at that point, you should probably think about maybe hiring someone to be more of the face, because like at the end of the day, you can be a CEO and you can be overseeing, but you don't have to be the face of the brand.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I mean, look at Gymshark and Ben Francis. So he's the founder of it, but he was like, CEO isn't my natural calling, but marketing is. And he smashes the marketing side of things. I mean, he was the one that got it off the ground and the following and everything. So it makes sense. And you want to hire people that are better at you than the things that you're not great at.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of figuring out your own weaknesses that makes you a better business owner. Because if you can work through those flaws, then, you're sorted.
Yeah, 100%. And just like in general, like just having a higher emotional intelligence to be able to be really self-reflective, to know where you need training, where you need help, what you're not great at. But even like in everyday, if you're just in like, if you can sense your own emotions and moods and be able to communicate those to people as well, like life is just so much easier.
I mean, I did want to kind of touch on about outside help for startups, because I know that we've talked a bit about kind of using more virtual assistants, Fiverr, that kind of thing, rather than stepping into trying to like kind of bring friends and family on board straight away.
100%. And like I'm not even sure friends and family are always the best way to go as well. Like you hear so many horror stories about bringing friends and family into your business, and like that puts me off a little bit. But so we kind of really benefit from this gig economy. So we've used Upwork quite a lot for SEO. Like we have like an SEO outreach guy who will literally just scour the internet for related blogs and find us posts, find us people that will happily allow us to guest blog. So we have a guy there, and he's so lovely. He's based in Bangladesh, and like we have a really good relationship anyway. And if there's any like odd bits and bobs, like I had so much like database work to do and admin based work, and he was so happy to do, and so happy for the work as well, especially with COVID hitting in Bangladesh. Like it hit hard. But yeah, I recommend that to anyone, because there's every budget you can get on there as well. And typically it's always like, I found it better.
Well, you have some distance, don't you? The work and you. Whereas like if you've got friends and family, you can't do that because it's then all about work.
Yeah, 100%. And like what we found as well, like we had quite a bit of development work done because we're obviously quite tech based. We spoke to friends of friends kind of thing who recommended like these different agencies. We got quotes, like the highest quote we had was like 40k to do some work, and it's like what? Like we're a startup, we're just doing this and this. Then we got a more reasonable quote around like 15k. We found a developer on Upwork who did it at a substantially lower cost, like under 10k. And the working relationship has been so awesome. And the work that has come out of it as well, like I don't feel like I would have got that from an agency.
No.
Because the thing, well, when you are working with agencies, like you're always paying for the big leather chair and the gym on site and all these other fancy perks. So yeah, I think I would struggle to use agencies.
I mean, consultancy is such a massive markup business, because at the end of the day, they're hiring, a lot cheaper employees. And because of that tier structure, you don't know who you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get the person that just started like a month ago, or if you're going to get the person that's been there 10 years. And for you to be paying the same amount, I don't feel that is ever going to be kind of an acceptable way for small businesses to work anymore.
No, I don't think so either. And one thing to mention as well, like when you're working on Upwork, like you literally have access to people all over the world. And what seems like an average wage here is incredibly high in other places.
And obviously, like even though that is the case. Like, you're obviously still paying them a fair wage, but that is just the difference between, you know, each country.
We'll be paying them more than you know, the average wage for their country, whereas it feels like, oh my god, this is like, you know what I mean, like, not even to sound cheap, but obviously, like, when you are a startup, these are the kind of avenues that you need to go down, especially if you don't have investment. Like, you don't want to be hemorrhaging money in places that are unnecessary. And like I say, like, I find the standard of work so much better. And when you're looking for a person to fill the job that you've got, or, you know, the project, like, there's so, like, they have such detailed profiles, they answer so many questions, and you can see all of their previous work as well. So you can see what other clients they've worked for and what they've done, and you know it's that individual doing it as well.
Of course. And obviously as well, like, you get to know the person a little bit more, and you probably have more flexibility than you would in a bigger company.
Yeah, definitely. And like, for me personally, like, there's 3 guys that we have. So we've got a developer, and he's got an apprentice as well. So there's essentially 2 developers that we have, our SEO guy, Golam, and then we have a graphic designer. So I found him literally by just searching for really nice sloth graphics, and I found one of these like royalty free sites. Anyway, I managed to find him on LinkedIn, and I was like, hey, like, I want a logo designing and I love your sloth. And that's it. He's been on board ever since. Like, but these are people as well, I can 100%, I would bring them on board as well. And I would love to have that kind of like global workforce. Like, it just feels right.
And also, you can pick your talent then, because if you have such a bigger market of workers, then you're obviously going to have more of a choice, and you can be more picky.
100%. Have you worked with any agencies or had like experience with gig economy?
I mean, like, I've got some people to do like a couple of jobs on Fiverr, and that always worked out really well. And it was just like a couple of like small kind of like photo editing things, or video editing things. But I feel like if I'd taken the time to learn all of that, it would not have been as good as if I'd literally just gone onto Fiverr and I'm just like, oh yeah, here's $20, there you go, and the photo's back within like a week, and I'm like, great.
Yeah, it's definitely the way to go, because as well, like, time means, you know, you've got better things you can be putting your time to.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, you know, you have your boyfriend, and like, I know you guys are doing it together. I mean, how do you separate that? You guys live together, and obviously that can be a lot. I mean, I don't know about you, but I do struggle to turn off from work sometimes. And if something comes into my head, I'm always the first one to be putting that idea out, regardless of what kind of time it is, who I'm with.
Yeah, 100%. I think for the first year as well, because we were both work full time and both do this on the side. For the first year, I was so burnt out after my first year, because at the same time I was absolutely loving it. Like, I also didn't really have that much time off from it. But more recently, there's been a much nicer balance. So we have this kind of policy where we're up at 6 and start working. We have an hour at lunch, and then we cut off at around 6-7 o'clock at night. But then we'll go on like a walk. But then, like, when we walk, we have strategy meetings. But I think because we love it, because like we're really passionate about it, like, it's not kind of, it doesn't feel like we're turned on, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're in with the business. But the one thing definitely that, like, I've only done it this week, and it was have Sunday off, like, had Sunday completely off, as in no talking about it, no doing anything. And this week I felt like a Duracell bunny. I've been so utterly productive, it's unreal. And I think I struggle to switch off, and I don't know if you're the same. Like, you struggle to switch off because you just think there's so much to do, and, you know, if I'm thinking and doing it, then why not, like, you know, just get further ahead. But actually taking that time off and away from it makes such a big impact. Like, I don't know how you feel about that.
So in the past, I actually worked with someone, and they really struggled with getting their kind of idea across. So they liked a lot of things, they created their mood board, and then as soon as we'd kind of talk about it, suggest something, and then 2 weeks later just didn't like it anymore. And I think for her, like, obviously it was a real struggle to try and take a step back and to think that maybe you don't have to be perfect, and regardless of whether you like it, if you liked it at the start, then you're probably going to like it afterwards. It's probably just kind of like a blip that you're just not.
Yeah,
you're not loving it because you keep overthinking about it and thinking that what others will think.
You almost get a creative burnout as well, I think. One of the best pieces of advice, because I've always been a perfectionist and not wanting to release things until, like, I think, because I always have that as well. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to put that out. What if this? Oh, and at the end of the day, like, actually people don't notice the little things that you're overthinking about, because it's just a perfectionist mind, isn't it? But it's so difficult to overcome, like so difficult. Like, I don't really know what the answer is. Like, the only thing I've done is kind of let it go, and there's not been any backlash, and I think that's kind of made me ease up.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're constantly thinking about something, then you, as you said, like, you're constantly analysing it, whether or like whatever you're doing. And I know, like, for myself with social media and trying to remember to post things and trying to remember to do A to Z of what I should be doing, but then thinking that nothing was good enough, so I didn't want to put anything out. Or, the thing is, it was all about building my brand, but I lost out on that because I was so focused on trying to push out as much content as I could.
Yeah, what do you think that was? Do you think it was just too intense? Like, did you have any switch off?
So it was fine while I was at uni because I was putting off my uni work to do Instagram stuff. But then as soon as I was in the classic, like, 9 to 5, although it wasn't, it was more like 1 till 10, then I felt like I had no time because it was a retail job as well. So I was on my feet all day. I would never ever like feel like I wanted to do anything when I got home and when I woke up, and it was a lot. And I think it was kind of like decision fatigue that I was in a management position and I was having to manage all these people. It drains you, and I kind of wish that I'd just stayed as like the lower, like I don't mean lower as in lower, but as in the first role. I wish I hadn't gone into management, but that's just me.
Like a learning curve, isn't it? Because I guess it's like you've got to decide what do you want to do. Like, do I want to progress my career or do I want to progress my side hustle? Because I think it's such a dilemma, because a lot of people, like, when you think like typical entrepreneur, if you think like Facebook and all these like big corporations now, it's like, it's just, you got to hustle, quit your job, go, you do it. But it's just not the way. Like, you've got to sort your own house out first, like sort yourself out, make sure you've got enough money for bills, savings, all that good stuff. But there comes a point where, and we've had this conversation a lot, like we had this conversation quite a lot before, like, we dived in.
Yeah.
And it like, what do we want to do? Like, do we want to progress our career, or is that going to take time away from, the actual goal, which is, to be like, the goal for us is just to be financially free. Like I was saying to you earlier, like, it's not about having all of the money in the world. It's just about being able to live how we are, but just not working for anyone else, essentially. Like, that's the dream. But the thing is, like, it's drilled into us, isn't it? You go to school and then you get a job and you try and be the best at that job, or you go to uni and, you want to progress that career. But I think it's such an alien concept to anyone that's just just gone through the school system. That's literally what we're programmed to do. That's what all the early morning starts are. It's like to condition us for working life.
I think about this so much, honestly, and it's like, how much of my education did I actually use after I left uni? I mean, so I changed my like career goals, because you have to decide what you're going to be when you're like 13, because that's just before you decide what you're going to do for GCSE even. And I had picked, you have to do the science, English, maths, whatever, but I'd picked languages, I'd picked catering. I don't understand why. And I did pick philosophy and ethics, which probably like helps me, maybe not on the religion side, but maybe on the more debate side. And then moving on to A-level, and then I did all science. I did 4 A-levels. I mean, I shouldn't have done that. It was just part of me trying to stretch myself even more. And then went to uni, did human bioscience, and then what am I using now? I'm doing social media and marketing. Like, it's completely different. And nothing that I learned at university, apart from like basic like physiology and nutrition for the kind of keto side of it, but for my actual job, what am I using from my university degree that I'm still paying off because I have 50 grand's worth of debt?
Oh, fun. Isn't it fun? Yeah. But do you know what? I feel the same. Like, I did like a complete and utter mixed bag at GCSE. Like, you say the standard, and then I did PE because I was just sport obsessed. I did like French media, and IT. I was like such a mixed bag. And when I finished GCSE, like I actually had like a mini celebration because I hated English so much. I don't know why. I'm just not like a language, but like I enjoyed French because it was, you know, awesome to learn how to speak another language, but just English and reading, I'm just not that, like my mind doesn't work like that. Like I'm so much more logical and, you know, mathsy, sciencey. So I did maths, physics and PE at A level because I was like, I need a bit of a DOS subject, you know what I mean? Basically just go and play sport.
Take the pressure off.
Yeah, go run about for a bit. And I was really good because like it went down from like 4 sessions of physical a week to like 1 or 2. It turned into more theory. I was like, hang on a minute. But yeah, I did systems engineering when I went to uni, which was basically like a way of thinking. So it was useful in a sense that, you know, a lot of the modules like aircraft design and electronics and things like that, I'm never going to use those. And I never learned them in enough detail to be able to use them. Like, but everything that I've learned for the career that I'm in within manufacturing now, like I've picked up through experience and from learning from people that haven't got degrees and have just, you know, they've learned it on the job from apprentice age. So like I think the one thing uni is great for is like just independence. And I know that you can get that, you know, you can just move out from your parents' house, but I feel like it's, I don't know, I feel like it's slightly different and you do kind of get a lot more life experience. And that's only like, I could be completely wrong there, like you probably get the same amount of life experience.
I would say the same thing, but in terms of the cost that I've had to pay for that. I mean, obviously, like life skills are priceless, whatever, you know.
Yeah, there's other ways.
Yeah, there's ways. I could have got my job at M&S without a degree. I'm not being funny. Like, I had it before my degree, I had it after. So, and I could have just stayed there. I could have been pushed up the management ladder, would have been fine. But quite frankly, like, they don't get paid enough for what they do at all. Like, the amount of stress, I can't. It sounds so stupid, like I'm complaining about like a job at a supermarket, but the amount of like bureaucracy around it is actually disgusting because obviously they're all struggling in a shrinking market and they'll never be able to be top dog ever because they have a failing clothing brand, so that they're having to take a lot of the debt from that with the food side. Obviously, like this is all like factual rather than, you know, yeah, obviously from what I felt it was, and I'm sure it's the same at a lot of supermarkets, that it is so petty what you have to think about. And, you know, as I said, I could have done that without my degree and maybe I wouldn't have been as independent, but I really like resent having to pay my student loan debt off. I know Grant Stephen on YouTube, I don't know if you've watched him. So he does a series called Millennial Money, and he never went to like college, and he just went in, he got his real estate license and selling like really expensive homes in Los Angeles. So yeah, he got his first million at 23, maybe. I could be completely wrong, could be like 25, 28. But he breaks down like what people are spending and, you know, how to like almost think about your like output more, because if you're spending like so much money on, and he literally says like avocado toast, because I don't even know if it's just me, but I feel like I spend a lot of money outside of my essentials. Like Amazon is an issue. I know, like all we've talked about, like gym wear issue, eating out issue, but when you like add that all up, you're like, how did I spend my entire wage just on stuff that was outside, like, yeah, after my essentials? And you're just like, well, I can't invest anything, I can't save anything.
You know, like it's only really in the last year that I've kind of got on top of money, because I got into debt, especially because I moved out from one house and moved into another, but there was like a period in between. And just to kind of like get that house, like I just, you know, went into debt. I remember coming out of uni with a student overdraft, and even like 2.5 years, I just couldn't get out of the overdraft.
I know, yeah,
like,
I'm still in mine, like.
But like I just got to a point where, and this is Jack as well, like he just gave some really like frank financial education, really set me up. And it sounds really silly, like just setting a budget, but it wasn't even the setting the budget. I think you have to go one further, especially when like you've never properly managed money. Like my money management was shocking. So I got Monzo, and I have all my pots. And, you know, since I've had those pots, it's like, right, this is how much can go towards each thing in a month. and then that's it. Once it's gone, it's gone. Like if you eat out every day at Nando's for a week and all your money's gone, then that's it. You ain't eating for the month. Or you got to pull it from, you know, your clothes pot or this pot. So that was like a really good way. Pots is really good. And there's another book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that was really, really good. I don't know if you've read that one, but that was really good for like financial mindset. And it's basically about a boy that had a poor dad, which was his dad and his mentality, and a rich dad who was his friend's dad, who he was mentored by, inspired by, that kind of thing. But it's really, really interesting, the different mindsets of like the two sets of dads.
My point is that if you can't budget properly, you're never going to have the money to invest in yourself and invest in a business. The thing is, like, loans are only available for so long and for so many criteria, especially like the startup ones. It is literally like for set things, right? So, and you will eventually have to pay that back. So if you can't invest in yourself, you're probably not ready for starting a business.
100%. And like one of the best principles, and again, Rich Dad Poor Dad, is pay yourself first. So when you go through like, okay, what are my like expenses each month? And they're like essential expenses. So like any rent, food, bills, that kind of thing. Like they are the non-negotiables that have to be paid each month. So you kind of have your budget. Okay, what have I got left? And then you figure out what other things you need. And then you have the amount that you save. But you should always go with that amount that you save. So I've been on furlough. So I've been getting 18% pay, and I've forced myself to save the same amount as I was pre-furlough. So I always pay that savings amount first, and then you kind of go through the other pots that you've got. So like I've sacrificed things like clothes and self-care budget and, you know, gift budget, that kind of thing. And I think that's really, really important, because if you can get into that mindset, because like that's what we fund the business off. Like we haven't had any external input or anything like that. It's all just been through our own money. So we save some and then we invest them into the business. And I think that's like a really, really good habit to get into. Even if you're not starting a business just for saving, set an amount that you want to save each month and make that one of your non-negotiables, and always pay that first. Like put that into the other pot first. Get it out of the way. Don't touch it.